Hello. So in this video, we're going to talk about Kawthor Younis' short film, The Girlfriend. This is an Egyptian short film. It deals with issues of gender and almost sexuality, but it's a sort of like weirdly ambivalent approach to sexuality in some senses. Basically, there's Ali and his girlfriend, who I think, if I remember correctly, is named Sarah, but IMDb doesn't have any of the character names listed with the cast, which is very inconvenient. I'm going to call her Sarah if that's not her name, and you actually... I saw the short film a few days ago when I was on a plane to London, so between jet lag and everything, my memory of that specific detail of this film that is, I think, in Arabic, or maybe Egyptian, I'm not sure, not 100% clear. So I think her name is Sarah, but I could be wrong about that. Anyway, so she is grounded, basically, like she's not allowed to go out and see her boyfriend, Ali. And so she comes up with the plan that Ali is going to dress as Aliyah, Sarah's friend from school, and basically come over and they will study together. So Ali, we first see Ali dressed up as Aliyah, going up the lift into Sarah's apartment building, and then sort of going into the apartment, and they go and hang out in her room, and it's quite striking. So first off, Ali passes quite well as a girl. The person at the door, doorman or guard or whatever, called him Miss. And so that's sort of all fine and fun at the beginning. And Ali seems quite sort of fine with being dressed in women's clothing and wearing makeup and things like this. Like, he and Sarah put on additional makeup on him, like green eyeliner. He puts on lipstick when Sarah sort of gets called out to go talk to her mom or something like this. So initially, it does seem like things are going along quite well, right? Like everything is okay. Then they start making out, and Sarah playfully squeezes his chest as though it is a female breast, and he gets very uncomfortable with that. It is a kind of alteration. He goes from, I'm happy, I'm having fun, this is a funny trick that we're playing, to don't treat me like I'm a woman, very, very quickly. And Sarah is clearly not able to really comprehend what has prompted this shift. She realizes that it is in response to the thing that she has done, but she doesn't understand why it's such a problem. And Ali does not really explain it. The assumption probably has to be that it is sort of rooted in Egyptian culture or Middle Eastern culture, North African culture, Islamic culture, and the very sort of strident traditional gender roles that are often encoded in those cultures. But that doesn't really explain why Ali agrees to dress in women's clothing, makeup, and a wig to get into the apartment in the first place, or why when he comes in it seems to be such a fun, enjoyable thing that they're doing together. So it is, I have a lot of sympathy for Sarah in that moment where there is just this very quick turn in Ali's view of what's going on. And it is not clear to her why that turn has occurred in the way that it has. Ali gets frustrated with this and he goes into the bathroom. She sneaks him into the bathroom because he takes off a lot of his women's clothing, so that he can have a cigarette out the window. The dad then wakes up and wants to use the bathroom, and so Ali has to pretend to be taking a shower, which to me is slightly odd. Like if I were visiting someone's house, I don't know that I would necessarily take a shower just in the middle of the night, but that's what they go for. And then Ali ends up sort of wrapping a robe around himself and putting a towel turban on his head so that he can maintain the pretense of being female when he comes out of the bathroom and back into Sarah's room. The next day, they redress Ali in the Aliyah outfit so that they can leave to go to school. And there is a very unsettling scene in which Sarah's dad, so her mom has left for work or something, and her dad tells Sarah to go get his reading glasses. And while Sarah is on that probably quite pointless errand, he addresses Aliyah, who he thinks is Aliyah, is actually Ali, his daughter's boyfriend. And he's like telling her that she's very pretty, and he's like very sort of creepily rubbing and squeezing her arm. Yeah, I mean, it seems fairly clear that this is sort of on the verge of some sort of sexual harassment, if not actually constituting some sort of sexual harassment. And it is particularly unsettling because the dad is so much older than Ali/Aliyah. I mean, obviously, particularly within a heteronormative culture in which heterosexuality is compulsory, to sort of borrow Adrian Rich's conceptualization, in which the default is that everyone will be heterosexual, and that is socially policed in various ways. Obviously, the sort of narrative of an older man hitting on a younger man would be very disturbing as well. The age gap is definitely a big one, especially I think for Western viewers. I mean, definitely, I think all cultures have some degree of the norms about ages and romantic relationships. I think in Islamic culture, Middle Eastern culture, North African culture, Egyptian culture, it is not as taboo in the West as it is in the West to have very wide age gaps with an older man and a younger woman. Though I may be wrong about that. If I am wrong about that, cool, great. Put that information down in the comments. I would love to know that because I don't have a good sense of that one. But it is a very unsettling scene. And one of the things that does make it unsettling is that in some way it implicitly plays into the anti-trans narrative of So there's a thing called trans panic defense, which in the U.S. at least typically does not hold up in courts, as it shouldn't because it's bullshit. But this idea is sort of rooted in the notion that trans people will try to trick straight people into having sex with them um, by pretending to be something that they are not. Now, in reality, of course, we know that trans women are women and trans men are men. And so there isn't a degree of trickery there, but there is that sort of idea. This is a very sort of bigoted anti-trans legal defense that people have attempted to use as a justification for violence against trans people, that, oh, I thought this was a real woman, and when I got her home and found out that she has male genitalia or whatever it is, I became disgusted, and so I had to physically attack her or murder her or whatever it is. Again, fuck that. Fuck those people who try to use that defense. It is bullshit, and you are terrible people. But, hashtag woke, if you like. But there is this sort of element where the film sort of moves toward that. And it's clear that there is no attempt by Ali to seduce the dad. He's visibly uncomfortable with this going on, which would be, I mean, that would be perfectly justified if it was Aaliyah, if she was a young woman as opposed to Ali, a young man dressed in women's clothing to get into this apartment. But that narrative of like, oh, well-intentioned heterosexual people might be taken in by deceptive trans people, and therefore some sort of violence ends up being justified, is a common narrative in the anti-trans community, and it's really, really, really problematic. And this film doesn't directly play into that, but there is that there's echoes of that, is maybe a good way of thinking about it.